This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. A busy Thursday. Let's begin with the nation of Israel in mourning. Today, the bodies of 4 dead hostages taken October 7th in the Hamas terrorist attacks made their way from Gaza to Israel. As Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem, it was the most heart-wrenching hostage exchange yet.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu expressed the soul of the country.
The heart of the entire nation is torn. My heart is torn. Yours too. And the heart of the whole world needs to break, because here we see who we are dealing with, what we are dealing with. Monsters. We grieve. We are in pain. But we are also determined to ensure that something like this does not happen again.
The Red Cross transferred the bodies from Hamas to the Israel Defense Forces. While the bodies will be examined for forensic identification, it's expected the 4 bodies include Shiri Bibas and her 2 sons, 4-year-old Ariel, 9-month-old Kfir, and 84-year-old Oded Lifshitz.
It's so different from all the other hostage releases that we've had so far. You know, every time in the ceasefire, we've had about 5 or 6 rounds now, and the first few were marked with abject euphoria. This time, Israeli media chose to respect the privacy of the hostages that we presume are coming back today. So the atmosphere was very different. It's also raining today, so it just feels like, you know, it just goes with the general mood here.
Earlier, in an event attended by hundreds of men, women, and children, Hamas and other terror groups brought out the caskets. Al Jazeera even interviewed those who claim they were the kidnappers. Hamas says that IDF bombs killed the 4, but autopsies will be performed to reveal how they were killed. Israeli President Isaac Herzog said these next few days will be heart-wrenching for Israelis.
These are days of a wake-up call, not just for our nations, but for the entire family of nations. In the face of this evil, led by the evil Iranian regime and its proxies, we must stand together resolutely, firmly, and courageously.
Thousands of Israelis also gathered at Hostage Square. For many, the Bibas family has become the most well-known of the hostages. The video of a terrified mother clutching her babies has become the emblem of the cruelty of Hamas on October 7th, and for more than 500 days. If confirmed, their deaths represent 3 generations of the Bibas family who died on or after October 7th. U.S. lawmakers reacted to the deaths. The cold-blooded murder of an infant is as barbaric a crime against humanity as one can commit, wrote Representative Richie Torres. And Representative Dan Crenshaw said if Hamas ever invaded the United States and kidnapped and killed American toddlers, we would never stop hunting them down. And yet the world acts baffled that Israel went to war over this.
I want to continue our coverage now with Chris joining us from Jerusalem. So, Chris, the bodies have not been identified, but is the Israeli government fairly certain these bodies include the remains of the Bibas family?
It seems pretty certain, Ephraim, that they do feel like it is the Bibas family. They want to be certain, though, for the sake of the family. You know, the emblem, as I said in our report, Shiri Bibas clutching those 2 children. It's really been the conversation of most everybody here in Israel. Many people were watching the live feed from Al Jazeera. We were anyway, but many Israelis chose not to, or at least I should say much of the Israeli media chose not to broadcast that as they have in many other times during the hostages release. As we said, 3 generations of the Bibas family that died on or after October 7th. This has really gripped the nation. I talked to one Israeli, and she just said this is pure evil, reflecting what, Representative Richie Torres says. How do you kidnap babies? And there'll be a pretty important autopsy going on right now with these bodies. They want to discover all the identity for sure, but they also want to identify how they died. Hamas is saying that it was an IDF bomb strike, but they want to be sure. Perhaps they died of natural, nutrition or malnutrition or something like that. or even shot. So they wanted to find that out and then release that to the public if the family wants, because they're very respectful of the family feelings about this and what they want to release to the public.
We know that Israelis have been divided in some ways in recent months, but today they seem to be unified in grief. What are the emotions today you're hearing?
Well, exactly that, Ephraim. United in grief. They are conflicted about what to do, and that's been reflective of the division here in Israel. Some people want to do everything they can to get all of the hostages out. No price is too high. On the other side, people are saying you have to realize that this deal involves that many Palestinian prisoners that have been convicted of terror attacks, and they historically have gone back to committing those terror attacks. So what do you say about the families of future victims that may be because of these prisoners? But a very, very emotional day here in Israel, reflected by the comments by Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, Israeli President Isaac Herzog. He was delivering that in Rome. But a very, very emotional time, and such a contrast between the euphoria of, when many of these hostages have been released Saturday after Saturday. But this is a very somber time, very mournful time here in Israel.
Quite a different picture indeed. On the flip side, what are some of the things that Hamas did during today's event?
Well, they seem to want to use each and every event, including today, as a way to advance their propaganda. They had another banner, and this time the banner was actually an image, a demonic image of Benjamin Netanyahu, and blaming him for the deaths of the Bibas family and Oded Lifshitz. They were attended by many families. I mean, hundreds of families came out to watch this event. The men on the caskets were 4 separate terror groups, including Fatah, which is part of the Palestinian Authority. They also had a banner with Yair Sinwar, and the banner had him actually rooted to the ground, meaning that, and this was a message to President Trump, that they're not going anywhere. And there was also something that said in one of those banners that said, "We will immigrate only to Jerusalem," another message to President Trump that they don't plan to leave Gaza. And this is all part of the dilemma right now as we end phase 1, with 6 more live hostages to be released on Saturday, and then 4 more bodies to be released. And then we have, I think, 59 other hostages that yet to be released. About 35 of them have been confirmed to have died. And the dilemma is right now between what Israel wants, all the hostages back, and what Hamas wants. They want the end of the war, permanent ceasefire, and that they would remain ruling over Gaza. That's a non-starter for Israel and contradicts the 3 main goals of the war for Israel: to defeat Hamas militarily, make sure they don't rule Gaza, and to free all the hostages.
Real quickly, what do exchanges like today and the others do to Israel's resolve when it comes to making sure another October 7th attack doesn't happen?
Just another stark reminder, Ephraim, of October 7th. You see the videos of Shiri Bibas. It's just heart-wrenching, and they want to make sure this never happens again. In fact, Israeli President Isaac Herzog, in a tweet, asked forgiveness of the Israeli people. So did the IDF Chief of Staff. But they want to make sure that this never happens again. And people do say, despite all this, it's an answer to prayer that Israel has gone so far since October 7th in defeating its enemies.
Indeed. Chris Mitchell, thank you so much for your insights. We look forward to hearing from you in the days ahead. Well, as we discussed yesterday with Chris on NewsWatch, Israel's ambassador to the United States is warning about an Egyptian military buildup in the Sinai Peninsula. Is Cairo preparing for a war with the Jewish state? On this week's episode of the Global Lane, Jewish News Syndicate correspondent Josh Hasten says the militarization of the Sinai is a violation of the commitment Egypt made with Israel when it signed the Camp David Accords.
That's absolutely true. And this is a violation of those peace accords, which go back all the way to 1979. At this juncture, we're not exactly sure why the Egyptians are doing so. But Egypt, a country which borders Gaza and Israel, a country which did not let in many of those Gazans who could have been seeking refuge from the war in Gaza. Egypt also turning a blind eye for so many years to the Hamas smuggling tunnels. All of a sudden, they have established a military presence, several brigades down there in the Sinai. Number one, it seems like they're moving into an offensive position. Could they be perhaps trying to lead some sort of attack against Israel? That is our great concern right now. That's number one. Number two, could they be establishing positions there because of the Trump plan, thinking that perhaps, in fact, Gazans will try to flee towards Egypt? That could be a concern of the Egyptians. Now, they've been holding Gazans there, not letting them into Egypt. And all of a sudden, they're playing a role on an international stage, perhaps trying to keep them in Gaza against the Trump plan. They are trying to put together a plan of their own. They'd like to see the Gazans remain in Gaza, unwilling to help their fellow Arab Muslims, instead trying to hold them there as pawns against the state of Israel. So that it could be several of those factors playing in here, and that's the reason perhaps why you have a military buildup, again, in violation of the Israeli-Egyptian peace accords.
Well, the good journalist that you are, and I know from my own experience, I mean, you always look at timing of things. Trump makes the announcement about suggesting possibly moving the people of Gaza into the Sinai, and then this. I mean, was this a sudden buildup, or has it been going on for some time now?
So it's happened before. There have been different instances of it. And unfortunately, Israel has downplayed the significance of past attempts by Egypt to show a military presence. And all of a sudden, they have a new plan, if you will, completely the opposite of what President Trump says he wants to do. That is move the Gazans out of Gaza in order to rebuild, and then the United States would then take over. So all of a sudden, Egypt wants to get involved when they've been quiet for so long, ignoring the plight of the Gazans, ignoring what's going on in that part of the globe.
So is Egypt's plan for Gaza getting any traction? What's the response?
Well, it's a brand new plan right now. I just don't think it's feasible with the situation you have in Gaza. As President Trump has said time and time again, Gaza is in total ruins right now. You have those unexploded munitions right now. It's a very dangerous place to be. So do the Egyptians really want more people dying there, more kids dying with the unexploded munitions throughout there? Do you want people living in tents for years and years? The American administration has said it's going to take 5, 10, 15 years to rebuild Gaza. So you want the people actually staying there? So I don't think it's a realistic plan. I think that they're really trying to shirk from their responsibility, as they've been doing all along, and not give the Gazans a place to go, instead holding them there as pawns, as they've been doing against the state of Israel.
Well, meanwhile, on Israel's northern border, more threats are coming from Hezbollah over Israel's continued troop presence in southern Lebanon. So why does Israel not meet the agreed-upon Tuesday deadline for withdrawal? What do you expect will happen next?
Yeah, so Israel basically has withdrawn from other than 5 strategic positions, and that is for security reasons. Israel right now has between 60 and 80,000 of its residents still not in their homes along the northern border. Israel can't just pull back. We can't have a situation where you have a repeat of the October 7th massacre on the northern border. That's absolutely unacceptable. So there is a vacuum right now where the Lebanese army has failed to step in. So Israel is saying until Hezbollah pulls back from the northern border of the state of Israel, until it goes up north of the Litani River, you're talking about 18 to 20 kilometers north, until they do so per the agreement of the ceasefire, Israel is not willing to pull back from those 5 strategic places. So Israel is maintaining its military presence there. Israel is continuing per the ceasefire, not in violation of the ceasefire, but per the ceasefire, to strike those Hezbollah terrorists who are still trying to attack the state of Israel. So until Israel feels safe enough to allow its residents to go back into their homes, until we feel comfortable to have our residents move into their homes, Israel must maintain a security buffer in that area. So until that happens, we're going to maintain a presence in those 5 strategic locations. And then eventually, once the residents have the confidence to move home, then they'll start to do so slowly. It's going to take some time. And until that happens, Israel will still maintain a presence in southern Lebanon.
Also on this week's episode of The Global Lane, unvetted immigration and the alarming rise of anti-Semitism in Britain, and censoring chaplain sermons at the VA. You can see it all on The Global Lane this evening on the CBN News channel beginning at 8 Eastern. You can also see it on the CBN News app, or you can find it on YouTube. Coming up here at home, a powerful winter storm hitting multiple states, leaving up to 10 inches of snow in some areas. We're going to bring you a look at the storm's impact when we come back. A powerful winter storm being called Kingston is creating major problems in multiple states from the East Coast and beyond. Brody Carter has this look at the storm and the challenges communities are facing.
So much for an early spring. Here in Virginia Beach, snowfall, and it's the epicenter of what's expected to be one of the largest storms of the season. Joining me now, Fox Weather's Ian Oliver. Ian, what do you have to say about this?
Man, people are asking tough questions about the groundhog now. Zero affiliation with the groundhog. But yeah, this is a place, I mean, they only average about a half a snow, Virginia Beach, in any given season. The past 2 years, this much snow.
Yes.
Zero measurable.
Zero accumulation.
There's already been about half a foot so far this year. 6 to 10 inches of snow in the forecast for this one. I think we're standing in the sweet spot.
Winter Storm Kingston is blanketing at least 10 states with snow and bitter cold.
I do have the wine, and I've just got to put the pajamas on, and that's what it's going to be.
That's wonderful.
Virginia Beach and the Hampton Roads area have already been buried under 10 inches of snow, with more expected. For a region that rarely sees accumulation, this storm is making history.
It is just something you don't see every day. It's palm trees and sand and snow all over the place.
I actually came here to report live for my high school newspaper on the storm. I mean, it's amazing. There's so much snow. You know, we haven't had this much snow in 15 years, so it's huge.
Whiteout conditions closing down Interstate 64, with traffic snarls and big rig slide-offs spotted from the Midwest to the Mid-Atlantic.
I'm thinking weeks. I really do. There's that much.
Oswego County, New York is so buried that snow removal teams are running out of space to pile it.
We're doing the best we can with what we have.
Their governor declared an emergency over the lack of rock salt to thaw the roads. Meanwhile, in Tennessee, power customers are being asked to voluntarily reduce their electricity usage to lessen the strain on the power grid. This after the Midwest was hit up to a foot of snow. The state of Kentucky is reeling after devastating floods killed at least 14 people. Now having to dig out of half a foot of snow.
The main thing is God. God's getting us through it. No doubt that He's with us.
From Virginia Beach to New York, Winter Storm Kingston is proving to be one of the most significant snowstorms of the season. I'm Brody Carter, CBN News.
Still ahead, CBN leaders from Southeast Asia come together for their annual meeting to renew their commitment to God and to seek Him for wisdom for the year ahead. We're going to bring you the story. It's coming up right after this. You're watching CBN NewsWatch. Leaders overseeing CBN centers across Southeast Asia recently gathered together for what they called Dedication Day. Each year, they renew their commitment to God and seek wisdom for the coming year. Lucille Talusan brings us that story from Indonesia.
Kita sambut Vietnam!
Let us welcome. For 15 years, the heads of CBN Southeast Asia centers have met around this time to dedicate themselves to God and the ministries they serve. This year brings unique challenges.
The whole world is going to change. The world is going to flip. Artificial intelligence is falling on our heads. There is so much that is absolutely going to just explode. The unshakable theme is this kind of beautiful picture of the inevitability of finishing the Great Commission in the midst of the challenge.
McClendon believes it's vital to disciple the next generation starting from preschool. That led to the development of Super 5, a holistic and contextual early childhood development program. So far, 1,500 church partners are using this to disciple children and reach out to their families. CBN Indonesia launched a companion program to train parents as well.
In the social media generation, what's happened is that technology has stepped in, and there are many other voices now that are teaching and training our kids. We need to empower parents and equip parents to disciple their children.
McClendon shared the discipleship programs with the other CBN centers to implement in their own communities. Another highlight of the Dedication Day came with a groundbreaking ceremony for the Prayer Plaza. What's going to happen is that prayer gardens are going to be built around the prayer tower, which you can see behind me. And this is also a call to the churches and to all the nations to come and pray and to pass on to the next generations the importance of prayer, which is the foundation of God's work here in CBN Indonesia and in the CBN centers around the world. CBN International Vice President Ben Edwards flew in from headquarters to support the ongoing ministry in this part of the world.
And now to see in this country, which has maybe the largest Muslim population in the world, to see leaders from all over Southeast Asia come here to get equipped, to get encouraged, to be prayed for, to pray for others, and then to be released to go out. They've seen what it's done in Indonesia because the results here have been powerful, and they know and believe it can be done in their countries as well.
And I'm praying and I'm hoping that when as CBN that we will be a catalyst, we will play a significant role in seeing Malaysia won for Christ and see the gospel preached to all of our nation.
We have to declare the word of God, and we have to do the ministry with faith, not with ourselves, but with faith, and have the God's strength in our ministry.
Lucille Telusan, CBN News, West Java, Indonesia.
How beautiful. We're coming back with an encouraging word for your Thursday. Stay with us. You're watching CBN NewsWatch. Time now for your Thursday Thankful. I invite you to join me in this prayer of gratitude. God, thank you for life's storms. You are with us through them all, and your presence brings peace. We're grateful for the storms. Surviving them makes the days of sunshine all the more sweet. Amen and amen. With that prayer, I encourage you to make this a Thursday filled with thankfulness and gratitude. That will do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News channel. You can find them there at any time, as well as online, cbnnews.com. Take a moment. Let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us. That address is newswatch@cbn.com. And, of course, you can always reach out and touch us on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. Make it a thankful Thursday. We'll see you right back here, same time tomorrow.